Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. We've been getting a ton of questions about the Utilities Select Sector SPDR fund,
Oh, yeah.
ticker symbol XLU.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys want to know if this ETF can really deliver, especially with so much talk about renewable energy
Right.
and this whole shifting market landscape.
Yeah.
Well, we dug into the latest data,
Okay.
fresh as of February 28th, 2025.
Right.
And we have some fascinating insights to share.
The utility sector, it's not always known for those super exciting growth stories.
Right.
But with XLU, I think we're seeing that there's more to it than meets the eye.
Okay.
Especially given how the market is right now.
So let's break it down.
Yeah,
XLU is a major player in the ETF world.
for sure.
We're talking assets under management regularly hit that $10 to $15 billion range.
Wow.
So that size tells us something, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That level of AUM.
Yeah.
Means XLU is well-established, highly sought-after fund.
Right.
This isn't some niche investment flying under the radar,
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that popularity.
All right.
XLU tracks a market cap-weighted index of U.S. utility stocks
Okay.
from the S&P 500,
Got it.
meaning you're getting exposure to the biggest,
Right.
most influential players in the sector.
So a good slice of the utility pie with this one.
Yeah.
And speaking of performance,
Yeah.
XLU has a 1-year total return of 10%
Okay.
and a 3-month total return of 5%.
Not bad.
Not too shabby.
Yeah.
But how do those returns stack up against other sectors,
Right.
especially those known for growth potential?
Yeah, those are solid returns, definitely meeting those growth thresholds.
Okay.
But you're right to compare them to, let's say, tech,
Right.
which often sees much higher returns.
Of course.
But here's where things get interesting.
Great.
XLU brings something else to the table.
What's
A lot of
that?
stability.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So less about the explosive growth and more about steady, reliable returns.
Exactly.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Especially with all the economic uncertainty we've had, a lot of investors are looking for that safe haven.
Yeah, if you want an investment that can kind of weather those market storms
Mhm.
and provide consistent returns, well, XLU starts to look really appealing.
Makes sense.
It's all about that balance
Yeah,
between risk and reward,
for sure.
you know?
Speaking of balance, let's talk about how easy it is to buy and sell this.
Okay.
What's the liquidity like?
Well, the average daily volume of XLU,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of shares.
Wow.
And actually, the real trading volume, it often goes way past millions of shares daily.
Really?
Yeah, this high liquidity ensures smooth transactions for both big institutions and individual investors like yourself.
That's good.
Yeah, you can easily get in and out of the ETF
Right.
without worrying about those price swings or delays.
That's a good sign.
It is.
And a lot of investors are feeling good about XLU, it seems.
Yeah.
We've seen some positive net inflows over the past year.
Interesting.
What's driving that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's a few things.
Right.
First, utilities are known for their, resilience in
Oh.
turbulent markets.
Yeah.
They provide those essential services, so demand stays pretty steady,
Makes sense.
regardless of what the economy's doing.
Right.
Second, investors, they love those attractive dividend yields
Yeah.
that a lot of utility companies offer,
Right.
providing a consistent stream of income.
Steady income, resilience in uncertain times. Two big draws, for sure.
For sure.
Now, what about those fees?
Okay.
I know the expense ratio can really eat into returns.
Right.
I've seen some numbers around 0.50% for XLU.
Uh-huh.
Is that accurate?
It's good to keep an eye on the expenses.
Yeah.
But the actual expense ratio for XLU is much lower than that.
Oh,
It usually sits between 0.09 to 0.13%.
really?
Yeah, making it very cost-effective for the long term.
And that's right in line with, or even lower than many other popular ETFs.
That's good news.
It is.
And it looks like those underlying assets,
Yeah.
those big U.S. utility companies
Mhm.
like Nexter Energy
Yeah.
and Duke Energy,
Mm-hmm.
they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, they are.
XLU has been showing some positive net asset value growth.
Absolutely. That NAV growth, it
Mhm.
really reflects the strength of these companies.
Right.
Their ability to generate those profits
Yeah.
reinforces this idea that XLU isn't just a passive investment.
Okay.
It's holding a basket of companies that are actively growing
Right.
and contributing to the fund's overall value.
So we've seen that XLU offers stability,
Yeah.
liquidity,
Mm-hmm.
consistent income,
Yeah.
all backed by a solid portfolio of companies.
Right.
But I want to go back to that initial question of growth potential.
Okay.
We know that utilities aren't always known for being high-growth rock stars.
Yeah, yeah.
But is there more to the story here?
Especially with XLU's connection to renewable energy.
You're hitting on a really important point.
Okay.
While utilities might not be the flashiest sector, there is a twist developing here.
Okay.
As of February 28th, 2025,
All right.
the sector is aligning itself with emerging trends,
Okay.
specifically the shift towards renewable energy.
Interesting.
Think solar, wind power, all things sustainable.
So this is where companies like NextEra Energy,
Yes.
a major holding of XLU,
Exactly.
come into play.
Right.
They're leading the charge in this clean energy space.
They are.
So does this suggest that XLU might have more growth potential than we initially thought?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
That's what makes XLU so interesting in today's market. It's
Yeah.
not just about traditional utilities anymore.
Yeah.
It's about being ready for the future of energy.
Okay, so let's talk numbers.
Yeah.
XLU's volatility beta is typically in that 0.8 to 1.5 range.
Okay.
What does that tell us?
So that beta range is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
XLU's historical beta tends to be even lower, like around 0.6 to 0.8,
Oh, wow.
which means that XLU doesn't fluctuate as much as the overall market.
Right.
This lower volatility, it comes from the predictable nature of utility businesses
Right.
and the regulations they work under.
Right.
For investors who really want stability and they're worried about market swings,
Yeah.
this is a huge advantage.
Steady ship in choppy water.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Finally, let's look at the RSI,
Okay.
currently between 50 and 70.
All right.
What does that mean for XLU?
So the RSI,
Yeah.
it's a momentum indicator.
Okay.
And that range, it tells us that XLU's been seeing some sustained upward movement without being overbought.
Okay.
Simply put, the growth we see,
Yeah.
it's driven by real demand,
Okay.
not just like speculative hype.
Gotcha.
So it points to healthy, sustainable growth for the ETF.
Right, we've covered a lot of ground. Explored XLU size, returns, liquidity, even its surprising connection to renewable energy.
Yeah.
But there's more to discuss.
Oh, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface.
Okay, well then let's take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll come back with even more insights on XLU
Sounds good.
and what it could mean for your portfolio.
Looking forward to it.
All right, we'll be right back.
So we've painted a pretty detailed picture of XLU.
Yeah.
Now let's connect the dots and talk about what it all means for you, the investor.
Right, that's the million-dollar question.
Mhm.
What's the takeaway?
Well, if you are looking for stability, consistent income,
Okay.
and even some moderate growth potential, especially in today's, unpredictable market,
Yeah.
XLU is definitely worth checking out.
Okay.
Remember, as of March 2nd, 2025,
Yeah.
we're dealing with a lot of uncertainty,
Yeah.
and that's where XLU really shines.
Okay.
It's not about getting rich quick, It's about building a solid foundation.
Right, like that bedrock
Yeah,
of
exactly.
a well-diversified portfolio.
Exactly.
It provides that stability
Yeah,
and peace of mind that a lot of investors are craving right now.
you got it.
But, like, you wouldn't build a house on just bedrock.
Right.
You wouldn't want your entire portfolio to be just XLU.
Exactly.
We always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right. Diversification is key.
So what other options should investors consider alongside XLU?
It really depends on your goals and your risk tolerance.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with more risk
Yeah.
and you're chasing higher growth,
Mhm.
you might look at ETFs focused on, say, tech, healthcare, or emerging markets.
Those are known for their potential for disruption,
Yeah, for sure.
which can lead to big returns, but also greater volatility.
Yeah, exactly. It's a trade-off.
Right.
If you're looking for income but want to branch out beyond utilities,
Yeah.
you could look at REITs or even dividend-focused ETFs
Right.
that cover a wider range of sectors.
So those can provide that steady stream of income
Yeah,
while diversifying your exposure.
precisely.
Now, for those interested in renewable energy,
Yeah.
we talked about earlier, there are clean energy ETFs out there
Yes,
that focus on solar, wind, sustainable energy sources.
that's right.
A great option for investors who want to align their portfolio with their values
For sure.
and support a greener future.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bottom line is XLU is just one piece of the puzzle.
It is.
There's a whole world of investment options out there.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to find the right mix
Yeah,
to meet your needs
absolutely.
and help you reach your goals.
You got it.
Now let's talk about risk.
Okay.
Every investment has its downsides.
Yeah.
So what are some of the risks associated with XLU?
That's an important question.
Yeah.
One thing to remember is that utilities can be sensitive to interest rates.
Oh,
When
okay.
interest rates go up, borrowing costs for those utility companies also increase,
Right.
which can impact their profitability
Makes sense.
and even lead to lower dividends.
So it's not just about looking at the current dividend yield.
Right.
It's about understanding how potential interest rate changes
Yeah,
could affect those payouts down the road.
you got it.
Okay, what else?
Another factor to consider
Yeah.
is energy policy.
Okay.
Government regulations and initiatives,
Right.
especially those about renewable energy and climate change,
Yeah.
can really impact utilities.
That makes
The
sense.
regulatory landscape,
Yeah,
it can change quickly,
for sure.
and companies that don't adapt, they might fall behind.
So they got to stay agile.
They do.
And we also got to keep an eye on the bigger picture.
Absolutely.
The macroeconomic environment.
Yes.
Things like inflation, economic growth,
Mhm.
consumer spending.
All of that.
All of that can influence utilities.
Exactly.
So we've got interest rates, energy policy,
Mhm.
and the overall economic climate on our radar.
Yep.
Anything specific investors should watch out for in those areas?
Well, with interest rates,
Yeah.
we've seen signs they might start rising soon,
Okay.
which could put pressure on those utility profits.
Right.
As for energy policy,
Mm.
there's a lot of talk about the government's commitment to renewable energy
Okay.
and how that might lead to new regulations or incentives.
Interesting.
And on the macro side,
Yeah.
we're seeing signs of slowing economic growth,
Okay.
which could impact the demand for utilities.
So a lot to keep track of,
There is.
but staying informed is key.
Absolutely.
Now, we talked about XLU's holdings earlier.
We did.
I think it's worth diving a bit deeper into those companies,
Okay.
especially the ones driving the ETF's growth.
I agree.
Understanding those individual components
Yeah,
can give us a more nuanced view of XLU's potential.
for sure.
So let's start with one of the biggest names in XLU's portfolio,
Right.
NextEra Energy. As we mentioned, NextEra is a leader in renewable energy,
Big time.
particularly wind and solar power.
Mm-hmm.
Their commitment to clean energy has really set them up well
Absolutely.
for this transition
Yeah.
towards more sustainable sources.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, this focus could be a significant growth driver for XLU as a whole.
I think so, too.
It's like they're riding the wave of the future.
Yeah.
Now, what about Duke Energy?
Duke Energy.
They're another big player, right?
They are.
Known for their stable earnings
Yeah,
and reliable dividends,
that's right.
which fits perfectly with XLU's strategy.
For sure.
However, like many traditional utilities,
Yeah.
they're facing challenges
Mm.
related to the transition to renewables.
Right.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
They need to maintain their current business
Yeah,
while investing in the future of energy.
exactly.
Does that create any uncertainty for investors?
Well, it does add a layer of complexity.
Okay.
It's important to consider how these utilities are adapting and whether their investments in renewables will be enough
Yeah.
to make up for any declines in their traditional business.
Okay, so in addition to NextEra and Duke,
Mm-hmm.
what other companies in XLU's portfolio should we be paying attention to?
Well, a few others are worth noting.
Okay.
Dominion Energy, for example.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They have a diverse portfolio,
Okay.
including nuclear, natural gas, and renewables.
Right, and I heard they're investing heavily in offshore wind,
They are.
which could be huge.
It could be.
And then there's Southern Company,
Uh-huh.
another major utility company,
Yes.
known for its dividend growth.
Consistent dividend growth.
Very appealing in today's market,
Absolutely.
where yields are low.
Yeah.
And how about Exelon?
Oh, excellent.
They've been restructuring, haven't they?
Yeah, they've been separating their nuclear generation business
Okay.
from their other utilities.
Interesting. I wonder how that will impact them long term.
It's definitely something to watch. Their move towards a more focused business model,
Right.
it could create both opportunities and challenges.
Makes sense.
You know, the companies in XLU,
Yeah.
they represent a really diverse mix of utilities,
Right.
each with their own strengths and weaknesses and growth potential.
Like a mini economy within the ETF,
Exactly.
with different players contributing.
Yeah,
That's why research is so important.
it is.
Understanding these companies
Yes.
before investing in XLU.
For sure.
So we've covered a lot.
We have.
Explored XLU's performance,
Mhm.
delved into the companies driving its growth,
Yeah.
talked about the risks and opportunities.
Right.
What's the key takeaway?
The key takeaway is XLU is more than just a collection of utility companies.
Okay.
It's a well-designed portfolio
Mhm.
aiming for stability, income, and moderate growth.
Yeah.
And while it's not without risk,
Of course.
like any investment,
Right.
XLU offers a really compelling option
Okay.
for investors seeking a dependable and potentially rewarding addition to their portfolio.
And as of March 2nd, 2025,
Yeah,
XLU seems well positioned to benefit from this transition to renewable energy,
absolutely.
which could provide a long-term growth catalyst for the fund.
I think so.
So, for those of you looking for a solid, reliable investment
Yeah.
that can weather those market fluctuations
Mm-hmm.
and deliver consistent returns,
Yeah.
XLU might be the answer.
It might be.
But remember,
Yeah.
do your due diligence,
Mm-hmm.
understand the risks, and make sure it aligns with your goals and risk tolerance.
Well said.
We have a ton of resources on our website
We do.
to help you research XLU and other investment options.
Mm-hmm.
You can find links in the show notes.
All right.
And if you have any questions
Yeah.
or want to share your thoughts on XLU,
Mm-hmm.
leave a comment below.
We'd love to hear from you.
We love hearing from our listeners.
We do.
Now, before we wrap up today's episode of Investing Talk Podcast, we want to leave you with something to ponder.
Mm.
As we move further into, 2025 and beyond,
Yeah.
how do you think this evolving landscape of energy, tech, geopolitics
Yeah.
will shape the investment opportunities of the future?
Yeah. That's a great question.
Yeah.
It really gets to the heart of being a smart investor. You know,
right.
we're in a time of crazy change,
Yeah.
and those changes are creating, both challenges and opportunities
For sure.
when it comes to energy.
Yeah.
This transition to renewables, it's only going to speed up.
Right.
That means companies leading the way,
Mm-hmm.
like those in solar, wind, battery tech.
Yeah.
They're likely to see a lot of growth.
It's like we're watching a whole paradigm shift
Yeah, it is.
in the energy sector.
Uh-huh.
And investors who can, anticipate and adapt to this change,
Yeah,
they'll be at a good spot for the future.
I agree.
And then there's technology, which keeps evolving so quickly.
Oh, absolutely. AI, cloud computing, the Internet of Things.
Right, right.
Just a few trends that are changing industries
Yeah.
and creating new investment opportunities.
So how do we sort through all that?
Well, the key is to find the companies that are not just innovating,
Okay.
but also turning those innovations into profits, sustainable profits.
So it's not just about chasing the shiny new thing.
Right, exactly.
It's about finding companies that are building something lasting.
Yeah, building value.
And what about geopolitics?
Yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
Geopolitical risks are becoming, really important for investors to think about.
Yeah.
Trade tensions, political instability, climate change.
Right.
These are all things that can impact markets globally and
Yeah.
create both risks and opportunities.
So we have to be aware of those
Yes,
and diversify accordingly.
for sure.
It sounds like building a successful portfolio for the future,
Yeah,
it requires a holistic approach.
it does.
You got to be aware of the big picture,
Uh-huh.
specific companies driving those trends,
Yeah.
and the potential risks and opportunities along the way.
It's about being informed, adaptable, and willing to learn and grow as an investor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Right.
There are resources out there to help.
Absolutely.
Our website has tons of info on XLU, other ETFs,
Okay.
and broader investment strategies.
Yeah, and we're always here to answer your questions
Of course.
and guide you on your investing journey.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to subscribe to Investing Talk Podcast
Yeah.
so you don't miss any future episodes.
We'll be covering lots of investment topics.
Yeah, from individual stocks to global market trends.
Everything.
And if you like this episode,
yeah.
please share it
We're out.
with anyone who might be interested in learning more about investing,
We appreciate
and
it.
leave us a comment.
Yeah, we love hearing your feedback.
Yeah.
And learning what matters most to you.
Thanks for joining us for this look at XLU and a glimpse into the future of investing.
It's been fun.
Until next time, happy investing.